All right, we are now starting chapter 5 of A Question of Yams. Last time we read, Kuri got bit by a snake, and so much was happening, he just started to feel weaker and weaker and weaker, and the headmen and all the other villagers were thinking that this was probably happening as a consequence due to the fact that Kuri's father was now praying to God and believed in the Christian God that the missionaries were telling him about. But even so, Kuri's father and the missionaries still had faith and still prayed for Kuri. And Kuri was so weak and so out of it, he didn't know what was happening. And they were waiting for the helicopter to come with the medicine and the doctor that they rang for. And that's where we left off. We don't know what happened yet. So let's get into chapter 5 and see what happens next. Chapter 5, Too Dry. Kuri awoke with a jerk, wondering at the noise outside. It was as loud as thunder. Father stood in the doorway, looking off toward the mountains. But it wasn't thunder. It was the sound of the noisy bird that Joyce called a helicopter. The doctor must be coming. Before long, a white man was bending over him. Kuri felt a prick in his arm, like the prick of a thorn. The doctor stood up. "That might do it," he said to Kuri's father. "The Lord sure answered prayer. He got us through those clouds." Father smiled. Then he glanced back at Kuri. "We have prayed, and God will do as he wishes. Thank you for coming to help." He went outside with the doctor. "I have some coconuts here for you, and I want to give some to the pilot of the helicopter." The next time Kuri opened his eyes, he felt better. Soon he could leave his mat and sit in front of his house. He blinked in the sunlight. He could feel its warm rays seeping into his bones, making him strong. One morning, as Kuri sat in the sun, he saw that the ground was dry and cracked. "Isn't this the rainy season?" he thought. "The sun has been shining for many days. Too many days. What about the yams? They would die without rain." Kuri pulled himself to his feet. Father hadn't said much about the garden lately, but the Christians had been praying more than ever. He plodded down to the yams. It seemed like a long way, and his breath was coming fast by the time he got there. The plants were still green, but the vines had not even spread across the mounds. Their curly ends seemed to droop, and their leaves were much too small. Kuri sighed. The yams had to get some rain soon, or they would die. He dragged himself back up the path and slid to the ground in front of his house. He leaned back, closing his eyes against the hot sun. Some women walked by, and he listened to their chatter. Their gardens were dry too. They were going to ask the headmen to make it rain. Then he heard his father's cheerful voice, and it filled him with hope. He swallowed the dusty feeling in his throat. Maybe God would send rain. Maybe it wasn't too late for the yams. That night, the Christians came to pray again. After they left, Kuri asked his father, "What about the yams? What if they die? Will you plant them the Christian way next time?" His father looked deep into Kuri's eyes. "God will do what he wants to about the rain. Perhaps he will give us a good crop of yams. Perhaps not. He is the mighty one. But even so, I will not go back to the old ways." He put a hand on Kuri's shoulder. "You know that the Christians prayed a lot when the snake bit you. We have prayed a lot for our gardens, and we have prayed for the headmen." Kuri nodded, remembering. "We learned some good things while we were talking to God," Father went on, "and we have grown stronger in our hearts. I would rather know God than have 10 houses that are filled with yams." Kuri felt something move in his own heart, as if a tiny green shoot were pushing up through the crusted earth. He looked at his father and thought, "A God who can make hearts strong is mighty indeed." "Father," he mumbled, "I want to know God too." His father's eyes gleamed. "I have learned about God from the talk in his carving. Anne and Joyce have helped me to understand it. Tomorrow we will go and see them. Man, each time we finish a chapter, I just love this book so much more. And I am so happy with the way that it ended. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. And let's see what's going to happen with Kuri now that he has shown interest in getting to know this God, this amazing God that you and I get to serve. Till next time.